Welcome to the Hyperpolyglot Activist Learn Languages, Make a Difference. My name is Dr. Carlos Liebra Lopez, and today we're going to explain why we should drop the use of minority as an adjective of languages and groups, adopting instead minoritized languages and groups. Let's break it down. So as you can see on the screen, there are 4 parts to my case. The first 2 parts are arguments in favor of my position, whereas the number 3 and 4 are objections that I anticipate to my argument. Now, let's begin with the first argument, the parts of speech argument. Now, if you think about it, minority is an adjective. So as such, it characterizes languages, groups, etc. In contrast to this, minoritized is a verb. In particular, is the past participle of a transitive verb, which will be to minoritize. This implies that someone has done something to create that minority. Therefore, minoritized as opposed to minority historicizes and de-naturalizes the minority status by unmasking it as the contingent outcome of a sociopolitical process. This minority status does not operate in a vacuum. It does not fall from the sky either. Rather, it is the contingent result of a sociopolitical process with an agency behind. In conclusion, unlike the term minority, the term minoritized recognizes that systematic inequalities, oppression, and marginalization place individuals into minority status rather than their own characteristics or something intrinsic to them, as the adjective minority suggests. The second argument in favor of adopting minoritized instead of minority is that a minority is not a number but a hierarchy. So what actually disenfranchises people of marginalized experiences is not so much the lack of representative numbers, i.e. there being a statistical minority, but rather the socio-cultural hierarchies and policies that negatively impact them. In other terms, statistical minorities need not be marginalized in society, i.e. minoritized, and vice versa. Minoritized groups need not be minorities in the statistical sense of the term. Let me give you a couple of examples. First, non-whites are already a majority of the world's population. In other words, whites are a minority of the world's population in statistical terms. However, this does not make them minoritized or marginalized. Conversely, not all whites are privileged. Some whites are also minoritized, but what makes them minoritized is not their being whites or they being a majority or a minority statistically speaking, but rather the socioeconomic policies that negatively impact them. Say, for instance, in the Midwest in the US as opposed to the West or East Coast. And now I would like to anticipate a couple of objections. The first objection is what I call within the dominant frame objection. And I think that this is a legitimate objection, though it does not invalidate my overall point that we should embrace minoritized as opposed to minority. The idea here is that using minoritized is suboptimal, as it centers the power of the dominant culture as opposed to honoring the identities of these communities. So when we say minoritized, we are talking about minoritized with regard to the privileged group, with regard to the dominant culture. So we're not conceptualizing these people on their own terms, but rather as subsidiary to, in contrast with, the power of the dominant culture, which prevents us from honoring the identities of these marginalized communities. So this is clearly a legitimate objection, but to the extent to which it does not override any of the 2 previous arguments that I have presented, overall, I still think that the objection is not enough for us to drop the term minoritized. The second objection, which I believe is not legitimate, is what I call the just semantics objection, which goes as follows. Well, Carlos, if we drop minority and we adopt minoritized instead, nothing changes in the world out there. We're just playing with words, but at the end of the day, we have more pressing, urgent, practical matters to take care of. And my rebuttal to this objection is, of course, that this is myopic, that this is short-sighted, that words are always already connected to ideas and the world out there. We distinguish nominally between words, ideas, and the world out there, but in practice, they all operate within a continuum whereby words shape our perceptions and the world out there, and vice versa. Our perceptions and ideas and the world out there influence our language. And I have explained this question in detail in the video that you can access by clicking on the link on top of the screen, which essentially explains this model of critical realism that I just described, the dialogical nature of the interaction between words, ideas, and the world out there. So that's all from me. I hope the explanation is clear. If you have any comments, doubts, questions, please write them in the section below the video. And as always, thanks for watching.